chesscoach.net. Chesscoach.net.
Okay, welcome back. My name is Frank Johnson, and we will be going over a game between Ben's Toys and Mark Amper. This is a blitz game that was played on chess.com. It's a 3-minute game, and it continues our theme on the closed Ruy Lopez worrall-Attack. This is part of a mini-series that we are doing on the Ruy Lopez, so let's jump right in. White plays e4. Black responds with e5. Now white plays knight f3. This is just basic development. Black defends the e5 pawn that's being attacked by white's f3 knight, and now white attacks the f6 defender. Realizing that protecting that pawn is probably not in black's best interest as far as development, he attacks himself by attacking the e4 unprotected e4 pawn. And the ABCs of chess dictate that you activate your pieces, be safe with your king, and centralize your pieces. And that's what's going on with the black pieces. He is now activating yet another piece towards the center in hopes of getting his king safe. White goes ahead and castles, and now black plays d6 because he does not want white to capture the knight and then capture the pawn and start his attack with his king still in the center of the board while white's king is perfectly safe. So the game continues. Queen e2. White does not want this pawn to fall, and now black pins the knight to the queen on bishop g4. White ignores that move and plays c3, creating a hole for his light square bishop to return to, also stopping the knight from making any entrance if the pin is broken, and also preparing a pawn lever for advancement in the center of the board. Black continues his development by playing bishop e7, getting ready to get his king safe. And now white plays his second quiet move, rook d1. Study this position very closely. This is one of the key positions that we look to strive for in this thematic idea. We are now prepared to play d4 as white, and black probably only has a couple of options. He may decide to just jettison his pawn in the center by playing d5, or he's going to castle. One of the two is typically what you see in this position. And in this case, he does castle. And now white starts his attack by playing d4. And this is a quiet developing attack, but it really explodes into a tactical melee. I really enjoy playing the white side of this line. It has got me a lot of wins, and I enjoy seeing its execution. Black captures d4, and then white recaptures, still creating tension in the center. Notice we still have occupying these center squares and attacking these center squares, which is very strong for white. And white's backed up his d4 pawn with his rook and his e4 pawn with his queen. Now black is trying to break the pin on the knight, kind of hoping that white will either commit or move. And in this case, we want to reroute our bishop to the a4 square, eventually to b3, and possibly to c2, depending on how much of an attack that black continues with. This is a time when we expect black to be attacking us, and we're putting our pieces on squares that we want them to be on. If we was to just immediately go to, say, c2 with bishop C4, B3, C2, or directly back to D3 and C2 or something like that, black will be a little bit more alerted to what our ideas are. So what we're doing is moving on his time. We're allowing him to attack us, and then we move. In this case, he's attacked us again, and then we move again. Uh, a lot of times you'll see knight a5 continuing the attack, but in this case, that's nothing to be worried about. If he was to do that, we just continue with bishop c2. He does not do it. He plays rook e8, and now we just continue with our original idea, which is to press in the center. And he plays this move, which is a nice move, bishop f8, creating a pin on the queen with this pawn. So the pawn cannot capture the knight for fear of losing his queen. In this position, most of the time if I was playing, I would play bishop g5. In this case, knight c3 was played. It's not a terrible move, maybe not the most aggressive. And now black makes his first major mistake. He plays knight h5. Knight h5 is putting a knight on the rim. Knights on the rim are grim. That f7 square is being attacked by the bishop already, so we have an opportunity to start pressuring the f7 square if we're able to get another piece over there. And Ben's Toys right away jumps on the awkward placement of black's pieces by forking his knight on c6 and his bishop on g4. Black tries to alleviate this tension by simply capturing the f3 knight, which was not needed for the attack, by the way. And white captures back again the bishop on f3. And now look at this position. This is a highly desirable position. What we have right now is both knights under attack, and they are both unprotected. We also are attacking the f7 square. We are double attacking the f7 square and threatening checkmate right now on this move. And it is impossible for black to hold everything or protect every weakness in this position. Most stronger players would resign in this position. There is just no hope, no future, no promise. However, black continued with queen h4. Now, this is kind of strange that he chose to do this, because notice that the f7 square is still unprotected, and he can just be mated right away by playing queen takes f7. The king must go to h8, and then queen g8 is checkmate. However, it was a speed game. Both players made some subpar moves or some not best moves, and in this case the continuation was bishop takes, attacking yet a third piece. Sometimes you see so much piece candy that you can lose track on what the objective of the game, which is to checkmate the king, trap the king with check, with him not being able to run, block, or hide. In this case, he chose to play bishop f7 check. There is a forced move, king h8, and now he just rips off a piece. He takes the h5 knight. He should have taken the he probably should have even just taken the rook. Bishop takes rook, which is a bigger piece. The rook is worth 5 points, the bishop worth only 3 points, and that c6 knight would still be hanging. Or if he decided to take a knight, he could have just taken the c6 knight straight away, and then followed up with bishop takes e8, and that also would have been better than this line, because what has happened is now black has the opportunity to wrest the initiative from white by capturing the d4 pawn. However, being shocked that he's in this position, he missed that move and played rook e6, trying to get his rook out of harm's way, but at the same time giving the initiative or the tempo back to white. White challenges the awkwardly placed queen on h4, making the queen retreat. Notice he cannot come to the h3 square because of the bishop g4 move, forking both the queen and the rook. And he cannot go anywhere else in the vicinity of the white pieces. So he has to retreat to either e7 or d8. Black chose to go to e7 and now hangs his knight. And now, again, he could have resigned. He's down a whole piece with promise of dropping some more material if he's not careful. And sure enough, he was not careful. He played pawn takes pawn, trying to discover on white's queen. White simply just takes another piece. He was already eyeing that piece, and now black's back rank is being exploited. It is a terrible weakness on the back rank. Black's king is very unsafe. The bishop on f8 is what we call the awkwardly placed piece. That bishop is on an awkward square. It does not belong there. And the queen is overworked. It is protecting the bishop and has to protect the bishop in order to prevent mate. So in this case, white chose to pressure the queen right away by playing, I'm sorry, it's black's move. Black captured this pawn. I don't know what that move does other than possibly threatening, rook e8 check, which is kind of a feudal threat. White ignores that and just plays bishop g5. Now, I love this move because now it starts to exploit the fact that black's queen is overworked. He cannot leave the diagonal of a3 to f8. So he is just forced to run away from the bishop. He cannot capture the bishop or he'll be checkmated. So he chooses to come to c5, and now rook d4 simply applies a lot of pressure on black's position. Black still cannot capture the bishop, and there's probably a mating sequence in here in 2 or 3 moves. But it being at a speed game and white looking for fantastical moves, he chose to play knight e4, harassing the queen yet again. The knight, rook takes knight is interesting, but still loses because it's protected by the queen. The queen is being challenged right now to leave the a3 f8 diagonal, and he still can't capture the bishop. With all this going on in time pressure, note that if the queen simply just moved to b4, he would run into trouble with a3, and now the queen would be stuck, and he would be checkmated, and if he left that diagonal. So, with all that pressure, black said, oh, my king is just too unsafe, I've got to get a hold, leaving his queen in pre. And he could have simply just taken that queen, and that would have been enough to win the game, but black chose to apply additional pressure on the mating sequence, closing the door that black had just opened, thinking that he was going to get safe, and that was enough for black to resign, having yet too much material hanging, too many mating ideas, down too much material. So these are the type positions that you can get out of the worrall attack. Very tactical, very exciting chess. We thank you for watching. Please submit any of your questions to our website, chess-coach.net. My name is Frank Johnson, and we look forward to seeing you again.
chesscoach.net. chesscoach.net.